I'm going to go ahead and mic it up. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the meeting today. My name's Troy Turley. In the absence of our president, Rob Bishop, as the vice president, I'm going to go ahead and conduct business today on his behalf. As we begin, we're going to open up with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have a prayer. But before we do the pledge, I wanted to read a small excerpt about the Pledge of Allegiance, and this is according to ushistory.org. The Pledge of Allegiance was written in August 1892 by Francis Bellamy. In its original form, it read, "I pledge allegiance to the flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." In 1923, the words "the flag of the United States of America" were added. In 1954, the words "under God" were added, creating the 31-word pledge we say today. Please join me in rising to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Matt, would you lead us in prayer?
Sure. It's such an honor, God, to be able to pray and without persecution. I'm asking that your hand is over us, help us, give us wisdom and over this meeting and the remainder of our day.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And our first order of business is with KLA and Carol McGregor. Please come.
There we go. Now we're green.
There we go.
Hello. Members of the board, I've never officially said that before, so this is exciting. Thank you for having me today. Thank you, Matt, for initiating this conversation and presentation as we go. Members of the community, thank you for being here. I also have my sport management, sport governance group here in the back. So these are high school or college seniors, pardon me, high school, heaven's sake, who want to be sport management professionals today. And they may potentially be sitting here where I am or sitting where you are and going through the board process. Today, I'm going to be talking about, quote unquote, the field house of dreams. I'm always good for wordplay. And so that's kind of, I'm sure you guys have seen the movie Field of Dreams. And one of the biggest things that we're going to discuss today is the idea of a community field house. I am Carol McGregor. I'm an assistant athletic director and an assistant professor, also the sport management program director at Grace College. The reason I stand before you today is because I'm also Grace College's representative for the Kosciuszko Leadership Academy. And we're going to be discussing our white paper topic, as I said, the Field House of Dreams. So scroll down. Thank you. As a quick overview, a little bit of what I'm going to touch upon today, I'm going to introduce and explain who my teammates are so that you guys also know the community members that you may run into or bump into at any given time. I'll give you a little bit of a background as to why we're going to discuss the field house and the dreams that we have for it. We have three major questions that have actually created in having conversation with Matt. And hopefully I'll address some of the ideas, not all of them, because as you guys know, logistics is always tedious. And then we're going to finish up with a summary, and I'll open myself up to questions if you have any. My team members are Chad Hummel, who's now working at Sylvius. I have Denny Harlan, who works here for the city itself, and then Angie Summers, who's over at the K21 Foundation. So I have to say, they truly are the brains behind the operation and very influential, and they've been great getting on the boots on the ground, getting conversations started as we move forward with our white paper topic. Thank you. So I have here before me was the description that we were given at KLA during one of our meetings about the Hoosier Legacy or Enduring Legacy program and the call for indoor community center facilities for wellness programming. It says that the smaller communities lack indoor exercise options from late fall to early spring months. This initiative would seek to support the planning, implementation, and building or renovation of indoor facilities in our local towns. These indoor facilities may either be renovation projects or construction of new facilities that would allow local communities access to exercise options that provide a safe space for both activity and social engagement around exercise. These structures would be used as convenient socialization opportunities centered around movement while providing a variety of health programming for the smaller communities. This would provide year-round access to health-centered programming and affordable options in convenient locations for all Kosciuszko County residents. So looking at this, it was something that had already been planned. To be completely transparent, again, I work at Grace College. Facilities, even as a college administrator, is lacking. I'm sure we feel it within our communities too, as it says, from that late fall to the early spring months of where can we go, what can we do, and how can we continually be active and healthy without those resources within our county. Athletic demands, as I just spoke about, but not only for Grace College, also for the students here within this community. Agitas is one of the prime examples of an organization that we think about constantly, and the camps that they host over the summer. What could they do and what kind of impact could they have amongst the community members if they had access to a facility all year? Personal stories. It's amazing to sit down with my team members and hear their stories of their children. I will go ahead and say, while I work here in Kosciuszko County, my dad was born here at the hospital just down the road. I don't live here at this time. I live in Fort Wayne. So the access that I have to these turf facilities, to gyms, is outstanding. And my colleagues, my team members, don't have that. They're driving 45 minutes, an hour over to Fort Wayne to give their children that opportunity to play indoor soccer during the winter months, to get that exercise, to have those tournaments, to be competitive for their schools. And we want to just kind of look at how can we build something or bridge a gap that we're lacking here. So question one of the three major questions I had when I met with Matt was, what does the community want? And I understand that you as a board are also investigating this. What do they want? What are the demands? How can we build upon this? And so those are one of the areas that we want to come alongside you to kind of answer it more specifically and maybe propose an idea. Initially, the idea of a feasibility study was presented, but again, we talked about that's getting very much into the weeds, and we don't necessarily have the time to look at the financial aspects of it and to give specifics. We kind of want to sit back and answer, what does the community want, and what would be the playbook? What would be the next steps? And if we can answer that with our own survey, getting in a little bit more detail as to what the community wants to see in a potential facility. We know fitness and activity is huge, and then connectivity within the county. Ideally, this facility would end up being located in the Warsaw-Winona Lake area. We do have other communities reaching out, doing some KEDCO, getting the help grants. I spoke with Jessica Barger, who is at Lakeland Youth Center over in Syracuse, and she's capitalizing on that and getting outdoor soccer fields. But if we could even, within the community, within the county, be able to access students from Syracuse, students from Warsaw, and everywhere else, I think having a home base for them would be great for their activity as well. If you could go on to question 2. What would this cost? Now, I have a quote here from the Farley Group, and then I have a personal anecdote with Turnstone's Plasman Center. As you can see, the Farley Group quoted 100,000 square foot dome, and underneath there is an example of what a dome looks like, would be about $3.6 million in construction costs with the builder and the materials right there. It would cost additionally for turf or whatever flooring you would want inside the facility. And it is a much cheaper option for initial cost. I did speak with Bobby Pazinkas. He's the owner, operator of both the Plex North and the Plex South in Fort Wayne. He has both a dome and a brick and mortar facility. He said that the dome was very much more effective, cost-effective, at the onset. However, operationally, to keep it filled with air, to keep electricity going, it costs much more than the brick and mortar, even though, as you guys can see with like Turnstone, the upfront cost is quite extravagant. Turnstone's Plasman Center is amazing. I don't know if you guys have been over to Fort Wayne to be able to see it. As you can see right there, it's a 200-meter track, 6 full lengths. They host many track events there. Indiana Tech used to train there themselves. And on the interior are 4 full-size basketball courts. They have a major scoreboard in the center there as well. They have space on the outside for some storage. They also have included in there a hot water pool, warm water pool, pardon me, a fitness center as well, and that's how it starts adding up to that 128,000 square feet. 14.5 million in construction costs. But the one thing that I can say, and I cannot give you hard figures for the Farley Group and or for the Plex in Fort Wayne, is the impact that it's had. With Turnstone, with Gym Rats, and the tournaments that they host, they bring into Fort Wayne 80,000 plus visitors a year, which adds 15.5 million in visitor spending just by having those facilities and capitalizing on tournaments that they host. I did speak with the facility manager for Turnstone, and he indicated that their first 3 years, they brought in about $60,000 in profit. Granted, they are a non-for-profit, so they don't have to require that because they do get enough government money, grant money, donor money as well. But now that they've been doing it for nearly a decade, it's actually about $250,000 that he's making in profit operating Turnstone's facility and leasing it out, renting it out to outside vendors when they are not hosting their own events. If you could go on. Thank you. And then question 3, who are the partners? As I said, Grace College would have a great interest of this because not only do we suffer the same that our students do, our adults do, of finding somewhere to work out during the winter, we would be interested in this as well. Hospital systems. We benefit from Grace College of being partnered with Lutheran Health Network and OPS. So it's one of those of, is there going to be a partnership? The parks. Do we want to go ahead and put this in a location, capitalize on the parks and the grants and the opportunities that you guys provide with programming and with initiatives with the community and what you guys are trying to achieve as well in the health and wellness for our citizens? Last but not least, foundations. Those people invested in the health and wellness of our communities, those individuals that have money that they're looking to grant out to provide the opportunities for our citizens to exercise and have activity. So in summary, the biggest question that we still kind of have that we would have to look upon is location. Where would we want it? Where would we have the best access? Where could people capitalize on it? Where are they willing to get off the interstate to go ahead and use the facility? What are the next steps? As I said, for us as our white paper is to continue with our survey and progress through there and get more information and kind of dial it down and hopefully create kind of a playbook of then how do we move forward? Once we get a little bit greater information from the community, not just those sitting in positions of great influence, but everyone who would be able to access this facility, what would they like to see? And then kind of the consideration of who could become our partners. And that's kind of one of the questions I have for y'all is, would you want to go alongside a facility like this? So thank you for your time. I'm open to your questions.
I'm still processing a little bit, so.
Too much information too
Yes,
fast.
I have a question. I mean, one of the things that we have to think about is we're more for countywide. So I think that as a thinking about location, like where would it sit? I know that we've talked just kind of like there's a potential of a place on the east side of Grace Campus possibly.
Yes. With connectivity, you and I have talked in length about kind of connectivity to the trails. So allowing a space for a bathroom break, allowing a space for wintertime travel and being able to pull off and have a restroom, or even a place to end up getting a soda, or not a soda, if you're out biking, you want your Gatorade. I apologize. So it's being able to have that location. One of the unique things that I'll share with you here that I did hear from Bobby talking about the Plex. The Plex North is located across the river from IPFW, and it's actually Purdue Fort Wayne's land. And he has leased it for 30 years. So he owns the building sitting on that land. So as Matt's kind of speaking, Grace does have a property out there near the trailheads, 2 potential trails that could end up being established that could potentially be purchased, leased, whatever might be, that's a long time coming to figure out those logistics. But that's one of the biggest areas that we've kind of considered is how do we get people, the summertime, you're out there walking anyways, but you still want to head to your favorite spots and you still have that connectivity. I know that Warsaw's been of a big interest and there's a lot of land in the area and the region. We would want to put it in a place that it's going to be accessible to the most individuals that need this access.
I think I'm trying to understand what you're asking partnership is, right? I think if this facility existed, I think it would be great to have it adjacent to paths and greenways and such, so it's easy access. That makes a lot of sense. But I think there is also the point of, we're still learning, as we're new, right? What is the jurisdiction, right? The property you're talking about, is that more Winona Lake? I don't know if that's a county piece. And I think we're trying to figure out what that means in terms of the influence that we would have or not within the jurisdiction of a town or the city. And then, I don't know if part of your ask is would the Parks Department or the board be a partner in the development and funding of this?
Yes and yes and yes.
Okay.
All the above. Because we're in the conversation piece right now.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to piece together who is most invested and who would want to see this come to fruition and get the right people connected and sitting at this table together to go ahead and create this plan together. It is a challenge to say, hey, this is exactly what it's going to be. But we have seen success, and one of the easy examples I can use is the Gordon Health and Wellness Center. With that being established and it opening up to community members, I know that there's some tension about the time of when it's open to community members. However, from my understanding, especially through K-21, it's been a healthy relationship to allow those 60 plus to get in with their memberships, to have access to the weight room of the facility, and even using the gymnasium in there. So it's looking at those partnerships and trying to figure it out. I know, looking at it from a park board perspective, my father was a park superintendent for years of, you're thinking, well, who's going to manage this? Who's going to be the people out there cleaning it? And this is where we have to kind of find the correct partners, because I could sit here and say, you see those students back there? That's who's going to be cleaning it. But if we don't get the right partners coming together and the right people invested, we're not going to have those options.
One of the things I noticed on the questionnaire that we had put out was a big desire for a community resource, where people could come and exercise, and that was high up on that need. So when I heard about Carol's plan, I'm like, oh, wow. The things that our customers, our community members are looking for is something just as what she's proposing. So logically, it made sense to me that we should at least come alongside in some way or another and help. Don't know how.
Absolutely.
Because,
It's
kind of in
figuring
the
out those exact
infancy
details.
stage, but it makes sense as a community. I mean, as big as what you have proposed, I mean, that we should be, at least have some help, help you or give direction or something. I mean, it could be cool, like, because people who on a mountain bike could come over there and take a shower, they get something to eat. People who are biking on the proposed greenway say we have a path going from Winona Lake to Pierceton. It could be a node. It could be a place for people to park, So that's kind of the, as a board member, that's what I was thinking our take would be from it.
And I will use Turnstone as an example, having gone and toured it with the facility manager. It was awesome because it is open to the community. It's a $5 a day drop-in rate. They do have like monthly memberships, like a standard YMCA or gym membership where you can scan and go in. And that's where people are meeting and they're walking. They're getting their laps in. So having a trail, or pardon me, having a track like that connected to the trails, it's kind of feeding into the same idea of like, you're already outside walking. Now we're giving it to you during November, December, January, and February when it's difficult to get outside and do it the way that you like. Having access to turf, again, those outdoor sports. We do have the privilege of having disc golf on Grace's campus. We could even expand that to like ultimate frisbee. We know that adult flag football leagues in Fort Wayne are absolutely huge. Adult soccer leagues is huge. So I do believe that we would end up having the demand within the county of doing additional services to help facilitate and to fund the property itself. It's just managing it and then trying to figure out, are we gonna overtake it as like the park board, as the parks, this is our facility? Are we gonna have other people take care of it and who's gonna manage it? Are we leasing it out? Are we gonna keep everything in-house? And those are a lot of details that we do not have to figure out right now, That's where my brain is. I want every answer right now. But we just need to be able to kind of say, there's people very interested in doing this, and there's people that want to come alongside.
Has anybody raised their hand saying we're willing to help fund this, or is this just really low level still?
It's still very low level because it's one of those situations where we have to kind of, I need to make the connections. I need to say, I have interest in the county park board. I have an interest in a hospital system. I do have interest in Grace. And then I need to be able to say, like, we're going to sit down. This is what we're going to discuss. How can we go about this? We can have funding from K-21. We can have funding from additional state grants. This is how we can kind of start moving forward. Awesome. Well, I truly appreciate your time today, everyone. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank you for your time, Carol, and I would like to thank the core team members, Chad, Denny, and Angie, for this information. I thought it was really well put together and thought out, and definitely gives us something to think about, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good stuff. So we're going to move forward with the next item on our agenda today, which is with MACOG. And Donnie is here today, and he's going to come up and help lead us back through some of the things that we've been working on since the new year.
Hello, everyone, and everyone in the audience. So unlike what you're probably used to in this planning process, I actually don't have any breakout activities. So we won't be going separately in our rooms. But what I'd like to discuss, and it was shared out in the reminder email, there's a couple items I'd like to talk through with the board and those part of the steering committee here attending, is kind of finalizing what does the public engagement activities look like. We would like to use next month before, in preparation for the final plan adoption that will take place in April. So we wanted to use the month of March to be able to engage, county residents, visitors, whomever. So the first thing I'd like to just kind of walk through, it was shared with you. You guys on the board have an outline. What we're thinking. I had mentioned this at January's meeting. Again, the format and what we're thinking for public engagement. So, but today I was hoping we can kind of like determine, date, times, locations, how many activities, events of any kind would you guys like us to facilitate and organize, as we are getting public feedback for this plan review. So, the purpose for our public engagement is just to provide another meaningful opportunity to give residents, visitors, a chance to review the draft plan, be engaged in the process. Participants will have the opportunity to review and submit their input on the draft park plan, know the major outcomes and what strategies that were proposed, and then just be able to interact with you all as board members as well as the steering committee. Again, if we choose to do open houses, then it's an opportunity for everyone to kind of commingle and interact and meet. So as I mentioned, the public comment period, we're keeping it open through the month of March. So, a 31-day, 30-day public comment period. What we're anticipating promoting any events that we're going to be doing is utilizing, social media. So if there's any of your followers, we encourage the board members to do frequent posting. Anyone here in attendance, I know the park board probably doesn't have their own Facebook page, but if there's a way that we could utilize what you guys already have to kind of disseminate the promoting of any engagement activities. There is an optional, MACOG, we could do like a Facebook advertisement through our, page where, it will push out notifications within a certain mile radius. So anyone who's following will be able to see an advertisement for whatever activities we decide to do. We can obviously put up printed flyers at City Hall, town halls, public libraries, much like what we did for the input surveys. We'll also issue a press release through Ink-Free News and any other local medias. If there's any electronic messaging signs or community newsletters, that's another opportunity where we could put a promotional piece in. And then, like I mentioned, park board steering committee just help doing that promotion and reaching out to your constituencies would be great. So there will be a couple ways that residents or visitors will be able to access that draft plan and be able to submit their comments. We're hoping to submit the draft plan on the Parks and Rec Board's webpage through kosciuskocounty.gov or .com. So on your guys' webpage, if we could use that as the central hosting site, that'd be great. Printed copies, much like the printed flyers, will be available at the city hall and town halls, public libraries, to keep it simple. We'll have, along with those printed copies and flyers, a comment form that, with a Dropbox, that a printed version of a comment form that they can leave with them. We'll also have an online version of a comment form. So where we put the link for the draft plan, we can also have embed a link that they could access for a comment form, and it'll automatically get submitted and sent, notified to us, MACOG, when comments get inputted. So then the last thing in this outline on your sheet here are a couple blank. That's what I hope we could kind of just quickly, I'm not say quickly, but I'd like to work with you guys and everyone here. How many events would you guys like to do? What, we're thinking open houses. I know last time we were talking about potentially doing 3 open houses. Does that still make sense? Do you guys want to reduce that? Do you want to increase that? Do you want the formatting of these open houses? Do you want one virtual? Do you want these all, in-person events? Can we narrow down if we're doing like 3 open houses, for example? If we did that, we were thinking one would be kind of in this northern region, one in the central region, one in the southern region. If that's still acceptable, then within those regions, what would be the most suitable location, the date and the time? So if you guys have those thoughts, that'd be great. And if we can kind of flesh that out, because then it would help us putting together that material to help start promoting it.
Connie, for a centralized location, we have space on the Grace campus where we could have one of those buildings open if they want. I mean, it's a Warsaw Winona Lake, and it can capture 5 or 10 miles out.
Okay.
So that's, if the board's okay with that, that'd be one availability.
I think that or the Warsaw Public Library is used quite a bit for this type of activity. I think either one would be fine, yeah.
Is there a preference between a Warsaw Library and what was the Grace College facility you said?
I don't have a preference. I could be there right there to facilitate if it's during the day.
Sure.
For selfish reasons, it'd be easier on campus.
I think part of the goal with those, to have some of the board members at each of this, and steering committee members too, right?
Yeah,
Yep,
it's
so
pretty
yeah, if we jump ahead, I guess, to the formatting, if we're doing open houses, what we would like to do is more of a drop-in, informal setting. So we'll have stations that highlights the draft plan. So there'll be a station that focuses on like the existing additions, what the vision mission was. These were like the major opportunities and needs that were identified through steering committee meetings, as well as the input surveys. We'll have a station that highlights the action strategies, so those top priorities within the first 5 years. This is what we're thinking about proposing the board's efforts to focus on, as well as in a station that they could submit their comments, or if there's any maps, there'll be large printouts of maps provided that attendees could submit their comments through. So for each of these stations, we would like to have at least one board member and or steering committee members who are present in the audience to help facilitate and kind of man, if you will, those stations, again, to kind of build that local ownership and interaction with participants.
So I think on centrally, I'm okay with either one. I just wonder though, sometimes going onto a campus and trying to find the right building might be intimidating versus just knowing where the library is. But appreciate you offering it. That's just my thought on that.
I tend to agree with you on that, Mike. I think that the library is centrally located and most people have a familiarity with it, how to get there. So if,
But for the, yeah,
Library's good.
okay.
okay.
For the north and south, I'd actually be looking for recommendations. Syracuse has a community center, I think, but I don't know if there's, again, more well-known locations in the north or the south. North Webster, that would work too, yep.
What was your question back in the back?
Yeah, that's what we're.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So then that leaves the south.
south, yep.
And would that be Silver Lake or Mentone most likely?
Yeah, it would be Silver Lake or Mentone for sure. Quite possibly Mentone actually might be a good fit. I would advocate for Mentone if they have a facility that might be able to support us. Do they have a
During
library?
Fort Kosciuszko, like their location for their southern region actually was at the library, I believe, in Mentone.
Okay.
Mentone Library, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Mentone Library.
I'm sorry, Donnie, on the north side, I couldn't hear all the conversation. Did you?
North side, I have either the community centers or the libraries in Syracuse and/or North Webster. Southern, so far it's Mentone, the library, or the fire station as a meeting room.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be good. North Webster would be good, the community center.
North Webster.
Yep. So we've got North Webster, the library in Warsaw, and then the library in Mentone. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay,
And then not Syracuse.
right.
So that would be 3 open houses. Would you guys want any virtual opportunities, by Zoom, or would you want to keep it to this kind of a format?
So I was an advocate originally for a virtual type forum, but since there will be an online opportunity to provide comment, I think that'll probably be sufficient.
Okay.
And that way, it can be at someone's leisure in terms of when and how and.
Sure.
Do we have a number of participants that we feel would be a good number? I know we're doing this because we want to hear from the public,
Correct.
but we're also doing it because we know the state reviewer finds that this additional public input is very important. So I don't want to have too few participants, but I don't know if there's a number that
There's no
we're looking for.
recommended required number, either by the state or even by us. We always shoot for the best and hope by doing these 3 opportunities, there might be one location might be more sparse or more heavy attended than others, but at least we gave, silver opportunities across the county that if they can't do one location, they have 2 other opportunities or 1 opportunity to go to another one. So,
What about the press release?
Yep.
I noticed that there will be a press release. Is there a targeted media for that, or would that be in the Times Union?
yeah, so Ink News, Times Union,
Gotcha.
yep.
Okay, so multiple sources then
Yep.
probably. Okay.
So
And if you can let me know, to make sure we're hitting them all, what all those local news medias.
Sure, gladly. I'll
We have a
follow up
list,
with
but
you.
just to make sure.
So with the format being of the 3 in-person gatherings, being sort of an open house drop-in, and you've talked about comment forms.
Yep.
I know we aren't trying to do another survey like what we did in December, but I find when I'm asked to fill out a comment form, it can be hard to think about exactly what I want to say. But if I'm asked to rate something on a scale,
I think,
I can at least do that really quickly, and that gives us a qualitative measure of either the community is saying, hey, this is great, or this is lousy. So is there some way to have something that comes back that we can compile and
Yeah.
have some qualitative measure to it?
I'm glad you said that, because when we've done, comprehensive plans or park master plans, we've done these comment forums a number of different ways based on the communities that we're working in, what they will like to utilize this format for. So we've, in some communities, just kind of left more of an open-ended general question that if they have anything else to add, because they can submit, feedback through those stations. So if there's any other additional things they'd like to include, we've done it through that comment form that way. Or here recently, what we've been doing is more prompted questions that actually gives them more feedback for the steering committee that is more meaningful in reviewing the draft plan. So we can set it up to be customizable. That would be what you guys would like. So if it's like rating questions, or if it's, a simple question, but it's still open-ended with a short answer response, I'd love to hear you guys' feedback on the content for our comment form. And you can send that to me by email afterwards if that's also acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, I just hope we can gather input that says the public has a really positive response. And there will be constructive input, I'm sure, that will be really valuable. But if we aren't to the point where we're getting a positive response, then we know we have more work to do.
Sure.
Before we move this forward.
And then is there a way to capture the feedback that happens during the interactions? Or will the board
So
member
we've
try
asked
to?
like those who are manning the stations, if you will, if they can recall those accounts and, either submit it through the online comment form or just directly email me, that'd be great.
Great.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll have probably sticky notes or some type of like writing utensil and paper that if you need to quickly grab something to jot somebody's note down, that'd be great. Or again, you could probably just use like a comment form.
Have you started to envision what the stations would be yet?
Like what would be at each station?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have like 20 by 30 size boards on the easels that highlights, this is what our vision and the mission statement was. One would focus on like a high-level summary of our existing conditions, so looking at an overview of our, the census demographic, how we came up with our needs and gap analysis. So we'll have a map of what that needs and gap is, our existing facilities that we had shared. We'll have a station that focused on, and it might be multiple boards for a station, depending on, how we.
The snackable version of this.
Yeah, correct. Like the Cliff Notes version, blown up, so that way it tells the story as people are walking through the process that went through to put together the plan.
And then one that would highlight the
The
goals and
strategies.
strategies.
And when you said gaps and needs, that'll be an actual map?
Yep.
All right, 'cause I think that's going to be informative, as people will have other ideas or identify opportunities for either parks or greenways and such.
And we'll have, printed copies, draft versions of the most current version of the plan there, so anyone can easily, flip through it while they're there.
And because it'll be available, folks could look at it before they came if they
Correct.
wanted to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a date when we need to have these complete?
So that's the next question.
Okay.
So if we're doing 3 open houses in 3 different locations, for each of those locations, it'd be great if we could establish a day, time.
Is there a deadline when they need to be completed by?
So we're, like I said, leaving the month of March open.
Okay.
So if, we don't have to do like geographically in order within that month, if you guys want to,
Okay.
basically within the month of March.
Okay.
So if you want to space out, like a week between meetings or days between meetings, that'd be great. Or we could do it, again, depends on how you guys want to do it. If you want to do back to back to back, we can also do something like that as well.
You have to assume that the libraries don't have some other event.
And I'll have to
So, I
coordinate.
mean,
So
that's-
once now I know these locations, I can work with Troy and Rob, and we can make sure that those facilities are available for those days and times.
Okay. Would everybody on the committee have an interest to participate in these events?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we can take that action item, Donnie. And so I heard a few there. We'll get you some direction on where these press releases can go. And I think that Mike and Aggie are interested to work with you to make sure that the feedback forms or the comment forms are to their likings.
Okay?
Okay?
Did you want to walk out of here with some potential dates, or?
I mean, if you know them, that'd be great. If not, you know, you can share by email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just as long as we have it ahead of, you know, well in advance before March, that way we can
Yeah.
put together the material accordingly to get it promoted.
and then from a timing, is this generally better from 4 to 6 or 5 to 7 to catch people after work or during the day?
Again, that's,
Yeah.
we leave it up to what you guys think would be best. If you want to do weekends, we can do a weekend, we can do during the day, we can do during the evening, during the weekday.
My interest is getting as much public input as possible, so I know, you know, I'll put it back on you a little bit. What's your
Sure.
experience with that in terms of trying to ensure that? Because I, you know, personally, I know I have a few travel dates blacked out, but for the most part, you know, if there's some options, I'm sure I'm going to be able to make.
Yeah, the week of the 20th, I know, is going to be bad for me in
Okay.
March, so I'll be traveling.
So typically, like, weekdays, early evenings, again, doing this, that's why we like doing this drop-in style, because, you know, if people are coming home from work, they could easily drop in, catch, you know, you all before they head home to eat dinner, or vice versa after they're eating dinner. So we've done, you know, from like 3 to 6, 4 to 6, again, during the weekday, kind of like the non-busy days of the week. I know probably midweek services for church services might be a conflict. So we try to shoot for like early evening for about 3 hours.
So I think maybe the ask to the board is if we can provide you individually what general timeframes were open
Yep.
or are not available, so you can work around that. Okay.
And like I said, so if there's anyone on the steering committee who would also like to help facilitate, please share with me. You have my email, your schedules as well, because we would love, you know, I don't want to put the burden solely just on the park board. So it'd be great if residents could also meet steering committee members. You know, you don't have to do like all 3 locations, but if you wanted to help at the northern location, let us know, and that'd be great to kind of help spread that wealth.
I think it'd be great also to have representation from each region, from the steering committee. So if someone lives in Syracuse, North Webster at those meetings, or that meeting, that would be very helpful as well.
Okay. Could I have a board member maybe just help me on the recruiting?
Sure. Absolutely. Do we have a volunteer? Okay, then I'll take that, Donnie.
Okay.
If you, I'm happy to help you if you need help.
I think we can all pitch in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be the glue for you, Donnie, for sure.
Or we can nominate Rob since he's not here.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any other, that's what we were anticipating for our public engagement. Is there any other comments or suggestions you guys might have before?
I mentioned to you earlier, I think the plan is shaping up very nicely. So I commend you and MACOG and everyone else here for the work that's been done on it. Please, everyone. I know you even gave us an updated copy over what was last emailed. But for the steering committee members and the board, please take a look. It's, like I said, though, I think it's shaping up very nicely. So thank you.
So anyone here in attendance, I do have a couple extra printed copies if you want to thumb through it. They're on the side over there. This is updated as of like 11 o'clock this morning, so.
And the final version will be.
The final version, this is not the final version, this is just a draft form. We didn't want to advertise it just yet on the webpage because we want to get it mostly polished up before we start doing the public engagement, which is only a week and a half now. But yeah, the final version, polished version, not to say final, the polished draft version will be hopefully on the webpage.
And I would just add for the steering committee members, please take a look at it because a number of us board members went through and combined some of the goals and strategies where it was the same theme. And then just to make it flow a little bit better, but we think we captured the intent of everything, but please take a look through it and let us know if something was not captured correctly, because if we have time to update that before we have the public input meetings, that'd be great.
Yeah, and even as we're doing these public engagement sessions, if you guys, anyone listening, if you see something that needs to be updated, please let me know or the board members know, because this is going to constantly be revised and up until we submit it off to the state. And to be honest with you, we'll probably see something even after we submit to the state that will probably need to be amended. So that kind of segues then into the last thing I have. Again, very different than probably what you're used to, but at this stage, we're putting together a draft version of this plan. So I won't obviously go through page by page by page, but the outline of this plan, we have an introduction. So this talks about, the planning area, the service area for the Parks Board, a vision and mission statements, the representation of the board members. We outline supporting organizations who would likely be primary, secondary partners, people who have key roles in the say in developing parks and a recreational system. We summarize the existing conditions, so you can see what that focuses on from pages 8 to about 19 or so. It talks about our census information, highlights the community facilities in all the local communities, any public lands that we were aware of from IDNR or nature preserves, even from private like Acres Land Trust. We try to capture as much as we could in the existing conditions section. We don't have a map yet. We are still developing like an existing facilities map. So there's a placeholder for, that's why you see a couple blanks in the existing conditions chapter. That map is still to become, it will be ready, by March. The next area is ADA compliance and accessibility. Again, from the Parks Board standpoint, this is just talking more from an overview and high level of what you guys' stance and role would be in terms of making sure facilities are ADA accessible as things become more developed. We have a chapter specifically that highlights the public participation through this process, things that we had done, currently, as well as then from prior planning projects. So Fort Kosciuszko was mentioned, HELP was mentioned in the former public participation. So we also highlight, the input survey, the results that we have gotten from a high level. In the appendix, at the end of the document, we're going to provide a more fuller detail of the charts for that input survey, as well as any of the comments that we received during the open houses, as well as anything that's submitted online. When we had done the stakeholder interviews in the appendix, we'll also summarize what those interviews looked like. The next session after public participation, we'll talk about major needs and the gaps analysis. So basically this is everything that we looked at during that November, December meetings. So again, there's a map that we'll provide there that shows what took place to help us formulate what are our gaps. We're working on that map, so again, that's there for blank. And then the last major section for the draft plan is the priority action program. So this is what Mike was mentioning, that the board took the time to kind of wordsmith, vet through looking at the goals and strategies and making sure the timeframes, priority levels, responsibilities was realistic and implementable and best reflective from what we were hearing through this whole process. So again, information that funneled the creation of these strategies and goals was things that the steering committee board members identified during these meetings, the input surveys, and then from the stakeholder interviews, we had asked them what they saw were major needs related to Parks and Rec. So that's a high-level overview of the draft plan. I do also just want to spend time, if you guys have comments now and you want to, I'll open the floor. If anyone in the audience has seen something, like to share your input, I welcome that. If you guys want to make this a working session to vet through the plan, I'll leave this up to you guys and how you want to, kind of do a review or vet this.
Donnie, one of the things, and I don't know that you're actually that person to answer this question, maybe it's more to the board, but I would like to have a clear delineation of what we are supposed to do as board members for the county and what is for Warsaw Winona Lake, because sometimes I can see like there could be like some people thinking this is what we need to work on and mind your own business and don't help, or where do we jump in? What's our role? I don't think we've quite established that, and we're kind of fuzzy. I am at least fuzzy as far as what is our role within the city limits of Warsaw Winona Lake. And I don't know if I know the MACOG's involved with both, so maybe they can help us answer that question. I don't know who. You have any thoughts on that?
So kind of initial thought would be your guys is probably the best area that you guys would have the most say and control would be in the unincorporated not within the local communities. Not to say that there couldn't be like a county kind of facility within those local municipalities. So I think if you were trying to do something locally, it would just be much like what was discussed a few minutes ago, just kind of setting up some type of partnership agreement with like Winona Lake, for example, or City of Warsaw. If you want to get within kind of the town or city limits. Yeah, so I think within it, be kind of setting up that, taking a lead on being a supporting role, partnering agency. That's just my thoughts. I mean,
Yeah. Don't know.
That's my impression of it too. Like, for example, for greenways, a lot of the towns have been very active already, right? And their responsibility generally stops at their border.
correct.
And if we're going to start connecting communities, right, it's that unincorporated portions in between, figuring out how to connect those as an example. I do think though, you know, when something becomes a facility that's within the town or city properties, right, then it can purely only be a partnership, or it's a support type role in that, can we make our connections, for example, work through that, where it probably gets a little fuzzier, you know, as we've looked at GIS and some other things, there seems to be some county-owned land within some of the municipalities too, so who, yeah, we'll have to probably get guidance on that.
We just can't work independent, and we can't work in a vacuum. I mean, we have to
Oh,
be very,
not
very
at all
close
anyway,
to.
but yeah.
Yeah, we have to. So many of the things mentioned in here are in the city limits, you know, the things that we're talking about. So it starts to get really like, where does our jurisdiction start and end?
We talked about this issue quite a bit as we were developing our vision and mission statements. So as you asked the question, Matt, I turned to that page in our draft report. It's page number 3. And we use the connectivity concept in both our vision and mission as really what's our role. Yeah.
But I think when it comes down to any type of facility, any type of amenity, right, where we have authority is in that unincorporated land. And as soon as we, you know, get to a boundary, right, I think it's pure partnership at that point. We're planning together at least with the individual responsibilities on both sides of that border. Again, that's my impression.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
And we could, you know, I was just thinking in like the definition of the planning area, one of those elements that the state requires, maybe within there could be a sentence or two that just kind of talks about, you know, reemphasizing what the county's Park and Rec Board role would be, as well as then establishing partnerships with local municipalities as things become built out. That might help.
Sure, is the community, this Warsaw, Winona Lake, or Syracuse, or whatever it might be, looks at this and says, wow, they're a valued partner, not somebody who's coming to like,
Right.
bulldoze or else take
Yes.
away, you know, it's like, it's gotta be like, we're a partnership, we're in here together for a common goal. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Do you want to say something to that?
We have carved out a strategy within there. It's under the second goal with establishing neighborhood pocket parks and advocate for pocket parks in underserved areas, and establish communication strategy with township trustees and municipality councils for funding and maintenance. So it's all really great feedback, and we all need to keep these things top of mind as we move ahead. And thankfully, we've got MegHog here to help lead the way. So,
Did you have a comment on that one, or was it just kind of reemphasizing?
no, I felt like it was in relationship to some of the
Okay.
discussion that was happening.
That we kind of did think that through and add something
We
related
did.
to it.
We did.
Yes.
We did. All right.
So I think this currently, what you sent out, not even the latest copy, does represent a lot of the activity that the board's been doing to help assemble this, but I would want to open it up to everyone here. Any committee members, are there any comments or feedback on what you've seen in the draft that was sent to you?
Give an example of an interlocal agreement from the taxing unit from like a city or a town or a county. Do you have any type of examples that you could present to this board as an example? We're just trying to see, because you know, it's a taxing unit and then you've got to have a governing body.
Readily, I don't have an example, but that's something I could probably retrieve down and share.
Because it kind of comes down to money and who's going to run it. I mean, when it comes to the, the interlocal agreements, I guess I'm just looking at it from that perspective.
I'll have to do some digging.
Just a comment, when we were heavily involved in the Boiler Kosciuszko, my best recollection is that the loudest voices, and there were a lot of them regarding the desire for a county park system, were people who already lived in those incorporated towns that have made significant investments in trails, and they don't want to have to stay within those boundaries. So I think from the residents and the users' perspective, you're going to have a lot of support from people who live within town boundaries, who are enjoying their town's amenities, but want to be connected to the next town. I think Kim brings up a really good point about, again, it comes down to, who's funding it. But those loudest voices were people who, again, were already enjoying their own town's amenities, but they want to feel connected to the next town.
Thanks, Stephanie. And if you don't have anything at the moment, obviously, hopefully you saw the email I sent out. For those on the steering committee, sorry for those who are from the general public. If you saw the draft form, please, feel free to email me, any comments afterwards that you might have. I've had a couple individuals say they weren't able to attend, but have already shared their comments as they're looking through. So, again, I welcome everyone's input. And for the general public, if you would like to see a copy, if you have an email or if there's some central way I could get in touch with it, reach out to me here after this meeting and I can share with you my email if you like a copy. Or you can grab a printed copy and still give you my email so you can submit your comments.
How soon do you think we can get this on the website for public awareness?
I think as soon as we can get approval to do that,
Yeah. I'm,
getting it up there is a matter of seconds. It's just
Right.
making sure we can get the
Just
approval
a
to do
polished
it.
draft, and we can publish the PDF, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
And you wanted to add the maps to it before it went up on the
Yeah.
website?
Yep. And then if there's any other, I have OCD, so if there's any other nitpicky things, I'd like to have a good polished version
Oh, yeah.
before.
You don't want to start controversy.
Exactly.
But so I don't know how long, you mentioned maps were in development. They're probably not.
We'll
gonna
have
be
it ready
done-
before March for sure.
Oh, yeah, before March, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you just looking for approval from this group to put it up? Or is there a different approval?
No, I think Rob was, and I don't want to speak for Rob, but maybe Troy. I think internally within the government, there was some
Some
approval
process or something, okay.
process. Yeah.
let's look into that and we can get back to you. We want to get it up there as soon as we can. So.
I really appreciate you guys reviewing this and sharing your comments. So please continue to keep sending comments that you all may have. And again, those in attendance, share your comments. So,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks for the steering committee feedback. We have gotten individual feedback that we have incorporated to a point that Mike was making earlier. So we're definitely listening and incorporating what comes our way. Okay. Is there any further business that needs to come before the council today, before the board? Diane?
I just have a question. So initially the invitation went out to those of us that were here to come to 4 meetings between November and April. We've already exceeded that, but at what point, like how long can we continue one term if all that, you're all here? Now that I know we're free to attend your meeting anytime, but how much longer do you need us to keep coming so we can get that in our schedule?
I do believe that the official invitation was through April. However, we seem to be making really good progress. And, we certainly encourage everybody to participate for the duration. if at all possible. Yep.
But I think with that dining, are we expecting any more breakout groups or anything like that? So at this point, it'll just be conversations up here plus input from the steering committee members?
Correct. So from here on out, I think we've done the bulk of the breakout activities to get the information for the development of the plan. So next month, as we're doing these public engagements, if we have had one or two have already accomplished, what I was anticipating of doing was just kind of sharing what we were hearing from those events. And if there's any more after that park board meeting, again, on the date, using that as an opportunity to promote it. So steering committee, no, there's no like action items that we would need. The March, even April. April will be a time, again, just do kind of one final, like a review like this of just making sure, everything looks good. And that one I'll be seeking, kind of the board's approval to submit it to the state. So again, there won't be any action needed from the steering committee. And then afterwards, then it's more about implementation. So as steering committee members want to help implement as lead secondary partners, that will be that.
Thank you.
So in terms of this process, in March, during our regularly scheduled park board meeting, is there really anything that's going to happen?
Like I said, I was going to share if we've had open houses already.
Just where we are in the.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
using it as an opportunity to promote any
Yeah.
others that need to happen.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Will be submitting to the state.
Okay, so no further business for the board? Okay. Well, if there's no objection, we will adopt a motion to adjourn.
I so
Hearing-
move.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. I was going to ask you if you wanted to do an update. That's what I was waiting for you downstairs for, but it slipped my mind between the time I came up here and back.
It was